Welcome to our comprehensive guide on property law, where we explore key doctrines, contracts, and rights that shape the transfer and management of immovable property. Property law is fundamental to understanding how ownership, sale, and mortgage transactions are governed, ensuring fairness and clarity in every deal. In this video, we'll break down complex legal concepts into practical insights, starting with the doctrine of part performance, moving through covenants, sales, mortgages, and ending with important miscellaneous rules. Whether you're a student, professional, or simply curious, this journey will equip you with essential knowledge for navigating property transactions. Doctrine of part performance originated in England, addressing issues caused by the statute of frauds, which required all land contracts to be in writing. Imagine a scenario where A orally agrees to sell land to B, receives payment, and puts B in possession. Without a written agreement, A could eject B, leading to injustice. Equity intervened, ensuring the statute wouldn't be used as an instrument of fraud. If a party acts in part performance of an oral agreement, courts may enforce the agreement in equity provided certain conditions are met. This doctrine protects those who have fulfilled their obligations even if formalities are lacking. Madison v. Anderson, the doctrine of part performance was tested. Agreed to remain in B's service in exchange for an estate and land, promised by B's will. However, the will failed due to lack of attestation, and A's heirs sued for the land. The court held that part performance could not be invoked because there was no direct correlation between the land and A's services. This case highlights the importance of clear, direct connection between the agreement and the property for the doctrine to apply. Doctrine of part performance applies when a person contracts to transfer immovable property by a written signed document. If the transferee is performed or is willing to perform their part, defects like non-registration or improper execution are cured. The transferor cannot enforce rights against the transferee regarding the property. Additionally, bona fide transferees for valuable consideration, acting without notice of the contract or part performance, are protected. This ensures fairness and prevents exploitation of legal technicalities. For the doctrine of part performance to apply, several essentials must be met. The transfer must be for valuable consideration, excluding gifts. There must be a written agreement signed by the transferor or their agent. It applies only to immovable property. Contract terms must be ascertainable with reasonable certainty. The transferee must be in possession and must be ready and willing to perform their part. These requirements ensure that only genuine, substantial agreements are protected under this doctrine. Right under part performance is a defense for the transferee, acting as a shield rather than a sword. It does not create a title but prevents the transferor from asserting their title against the transferee. The transferee cannot sue based on title but can defend their possession. This limited scope was affirmed by the Supreme Court in Ram Gopal v. Custodian, emphasizing the doctrine's role in protecting possession rather than granting ownership. Nathulo v. Fulchand, A sold his ginning factory with land to B, who paid part of the purchase money and took possession. Sued B for eviction due to unpaid balance but had not fulfilled certain obligations. The court held that B could claim the doctrine of part performance as he had acted in reliance on the agreement and was in possession. This case illustrates how courts protect transferees who have fulfilled their part of the contract. In Technician Studio v. Leela, L leased her premises to T for 5 years. When L sued T for eviction within the lease period, the court allowed T to invoke the doctrine of part performance. This reinforced the principle that parties who act in reliance on a contract and fulfill their obligations are protected, even if formalities are incomplete. Moving to covenants annexed to land, these are promises made in a deed of transfer that affect the nature, quality, use, or value of immovable property. The rule in Tulk v. Moxhay established that such covenants run with the land, binding subsequent owners if they have notice. For example, a seller may promise not to build on a site, and this restriction continues even as the property changes hands. Covenants ensure the beneficial enjoyment of property and can be enforced against transferees with notice. Tulk v. Moxhay, P sold a vacant site to A with a condition not to build on it. The site passed through several owners, eventually reaching D, who wanted to build. P sued to restrain D, and the court granted an injunction enforcing the covenant. This case demonstrates how covenants can restrict property use for the benefit of original and subsequent owners, provided transferees have notice. Section 40 of the Transfer of Property Act provides that rights or obligations arising from covenants annexed to ownership can be enforced against transferees with notice. This applies even to gratuitous transferees, but bona fide transferees for value without notice are protected. Examples include covenants to build roads, restrict use for fish markets, or prevent construction affecting light and air. These conditions enhance the enjoyment and value of property. It's important to note that Section 40 does not apply to easements, which are separate legal rights concerning property use. English law distinguishes between covenants as grants or reservations in land and personal contracts. Only covenants running with the land bind transferees, while personal contracts do not. Exceptions include leases and covenants annexed to land, ensuring certain obligations persist through property transfer. Covenants can be implied or express. Implied covenants include rights to quiet enjoyment, freedom from encumbrances, and right to convey. Express covenants are those specifically stated in the contract. In Dyson v. Forster, a company covenanted to pay compensation for damages in working a mine, which was held to be a covenant annexed to the land, not a personal contract. This distinction is crucial for determining enforceability. Contract of sale is an agreement to transfer ownership of immovable property in exchange for a price paid, promised, or part paid and part promised. According to Section 54 of the Transfer of Property Act, sales of property valued at Rs. 100 or more must be made by a registered deed. Delivery occurs when the buyer is placed in possession. Importantly, a contract for sale does not create any charge or interest in the property by itself. it merely sets the terms for future transfer. Seller has several key duties: disclosing material defects, producing all documents of title, answering relevant questions about the property, executing the sale deed upon payment, caring for the property until sale, delivering possession, paying public charges and rents up to the sale date, and ensuring the power to transfer. When the sale price is fully paid, the seller must deliver all title documents to the buyer. These duties protect buyers and ensure transparency in property transactions. Sellers retain certain rights until ownership passes to the buyer. They are entitled to rents and profits from the property. If the sale price is not fully paid, the seller has a vendor's lien, a charge over the property for unpaid amounts. This ensures sellers are compensated and can protect their interests if buyers default on payment. Buyers also have important duties: disclosing any fact that would materially enhance the property's value, paying or tendering the price at the agreed time and place, and once ownership passes, bearing liability for loss or destruction. Buyers must pay public charges and rents that become payable after the transfer. These obligations ensure fairness and accountability in property transactions. After the property passes to the buyer, they are entitled to any benefits, increases in value, rents, and profits. Buyers also have a charge on advances made in anticipation of delivery and for interest on such advances. These rights ensure buyers receive the full benefit of their investment once ownership is transferred. Mortgage is the transfer of an interest in specific immovable property to secure payment of money advanced, either as a loan or for a pecuniary liability. The transferor is the mortgagor and the transferee is the mortgagee. Mortgages must be made by a registered, written, signed, and attested deed if the value is Rs. 100 or more. The Transfer of Property Act recognizes several types of mortgages: simple, mortgage by conditional sale, usufructuary, English, equitable, and anomalous. Simple mortgage: there is no delivery of the mortgaged property to the mortgagee. The mortgagor binds themselves personally to pay the mortgage money. If payment fails, the mortgagee has the right to sell the property and apply the proceeds toward the debt. This type of mortgage involves a personal covenant to pay and a transfer of power of sale, offering security to the lender without transferring possession. Equitable mortgage, or mortgage by deposit of title deeds, involves the mortgagor delivering documents of title to the creditor with the intent to create security. The essence is the intention that deposited deeds secure the debt. While generally made in writing, it can be oral if the intention is clear. Registration of a memorandum is not necessary, as the deposit itself creates the security. In a mortgage by conditional sale, the mortgagor makes an ostensible sale of the property to the mortgagee, subject to the condition that if the mortgage money is not paid by the agreed date, the sale becomes absolute. If payment is made, the sale is void and the property is returned. The mortgage deed must specify these conditions. Only on default does the sale become absolute, converting the transaction into a sale. Usufructuary mortgage involves the mortgagor delivering possession of the property to the mortgagee, who retains possession until the debt is paid. The mortgagee collects rents and profits in lieu of interest. There is no personal liability for the mortgagor beyond the property itself. This type of mortgage allows the lender to benefit from the property's income while securing repayment. In English mortgage, the mortgagor binds themselves to repay the debt on a certain date and transfers the property absolutely to the mortgagee. However, this transfer is absolute only in form, not in reality. The mortgagee promises to retransfer the property upon repayment. This type involves both transfer of ownership and a personal covenant to repay, offering strong security to the lender. Anomalous mortgage is a composite type, combining features of two or more mortgage types. It is neither simple, conditional sale, usufructuary English, nor equitable mortgage. For example, a combination of simple and usufructuary mortgage may arise, as seen in Narsingh Pratap v. Mohammed Yaqub. The court determines the nature and enforcement based on the transaction's characteristics. Doctrine of equity of redemption, summarized as once a mortgage, always a mortgage, ensures the mortgagor's right to redeem the property. Courts protect this right, and any contract imposing conditions against redemption is void. Mortgage is only security for debt repayment. Once paid, the mortgagor is entitled to release. Any restriction on redemption is a clog on the equity of redemption. Mortgagor may redeem the mortgage by paying the due amount at the proper time and place. The mortgagee must deliver all documents in possession if held. The mortgagor may require written acknowledgement of extinguished rights. The limitation period for redemption is 30 years from when the right accrues. The mortgagee's right to foreclosure also lasts 30 years from when money becomes due, allowing them to bar the mortgagor from redeeming after this period. Doctrine of marshalling, stated in Section 81, ensures that when a mortgagor mortgages multiple properties to different creditors, the subsequent mortgagee can have the prior mortgage debt satisfied out of properties not mortgaged to them. This prevents one creditor from disappointing another and protects the interests of all parties involved. The principle is to arrange properties so the burden falls on those not included in the second security. Contribution is the converse of marshalling. When mortgaged property belongs to two or more persons with distinct ownership, all must contribute ratably to the mortgage debt. The value at the date of mortgage determines contributions. This ensures fairness among co-owners and prevents one from bearing an undue share of the debt. Subrogation means substitution, allowing a person who pays off a creditor to step into their shoes and exercise the creditor's rights. Any person redeeming a mortgaged property gains the same rights as the mortgagee against the mortgagor or other mortgagees. Full redemption is required for this doctrine to apply. Subrogation is available to persons with interest or charge on the property, sureties, or creditors of the mortgagor. Tacking refers to shifting one's position by paying off a prior mortgage. However, Section 93 of the Transfer of Property Act prohibits tacking, meaning no mortgagee paying off a prior mortgage can acquire priority in respect of their original security. This rule prevents manipulation of mortgage priorities and protects intermediate mortgagees. Rule Redeem Up Foreclose Down allows every mortgagee to redeem prior mortgagees and foreclose subsequent ones. For example, if a mortgage's property to B, C, and D, D may redeem B or C, while B can foreclose A, C, and D. This rule protects creditors' interests and clarifies the hierarchy of rights among multiple mortgagees. Mortgagee in possession has several rights: spending necessary amounts for property preservation, supporting the mortgagor's title, defending suits, and claiming money from sales or government acquisition. These rights ensure the mortgagee can protect their security and recover their investment if the property is threatened. Mortgagees in possession must prudently manage the property, collect rents and profits, pay government revenues and public charges, make necessary repairs, avoid damage, maintain accurate accounts, and account for money tendered by the mortgagor. Failure to meet these obligations makes the mortgagee liable for losses incurred by the mortgagor. Substituted security means the mortgagee is entitled not only to the original mortgaged property, but also to anything substituted for it. For example, if a mortgaged house is demolished and rebuilt, the new house becomes substitute security. The mortgagee can claim payment from proceeds of sales, government acquisition, or compensation related to the property. This rule protects the mortgagee's interests even as the property changes form. Doctrine of Consolidation allows a mortgagor who executes multiple mortgages in favor of the same mortgagee to redeem each separately or consolidate them. Section 67A requires mortgagees holding multiple mortgages of the same property to sue by consolidating all together. This prevents piecemeal litigation and ensures comprehensive resolution of mortgage claims. Section 10 of the Transfer of Property Act states that any condition absolutely restraining the transferee from alienating their interest in property is void. The right to transfer property is inseparable from ownership. This rule applies to sales, gifts, exchanges, and other transfers, ensuring freedom of alienation. Exceptions include leases and transfers for married women under certain conditions. Absolute restraint on transfer renders the condition void, while partial restraint may be valid. For example, a partition prohibiting alienation is void, but a gift restricting alienation during the donee's lifetime is also void. However, certain lease conditions and transfers for married women are exceptions, allowing limited restraint. Section 12 protects creditors by voiding conditions that cause the transferee's interest to cease upon insolvency or attempted alienation. For example, if property is settled in trust for a person until death or bankruptcy, and the person becomes insolvent, the condition is void. This ensures creditors can claim assets without unfair restrictions. Section 27 deals with the Doctrine of Acceleration. If a transfer creates an interest for one person and an ulterior disposition for another, the latter takes effect if the first fails, even if not as originally contemplated. For example, if a gift to B fails, the property passes to B's children. This doctrine ensures property is not left in limbo when primary interests fail. Apportionment divides periodical payments like rents, annuities, and dividends by time or estate. Apportionment by time means payments accrue day by day and are split accordingly. For example, if a house is sold mid-month, rent is divided between seller and buyer. Apportionment by estate applies when property is divided among several owners, who receive benefits and bear duties in proportion to their share. Apportionment by time does not apply to execution sales by courts. Apportionment by estate does not apply to agricultural leases. Duties must be severable and performed without undue burden. Reasonable notice must be given of severance. These exceptions ensure practicality and fairness in applying apportionment rules. Section 17 prevents property income from being tied up beyond a fixed period. Accumulation directions are valid during the transferor's life or for 18 years from transfer. If accumulation exceeds this, the direction is invalid, and income is disposed of after the allowed period. Exceptions include payment of debts, provision for children, and property maintenance. Thallison v. Woodford and Barry v. Green are key cases illustrating the rule against accumulation. In Thallison, accumulation during the lives of 7 persons was valid, as it fell within the perpetuity rule. However, conditions violating the rule, such as requiring a beneficiary to attain age 25, are void. Valid accumulation ensures property income is not unfairly withheld from beneficiaries. We've covered essential doctrines and rules in property law, from part performance and covenants to sales, mortgages, and miscellaneous principles like inalienability, acceleration, apportionment, and accumulation. Understanding these concepts helps ensure fair, transparent, and secure property transactions. Whether dealing with contracts, mortgages, or rights and duties, these legal frameworks protect both buyers and sellers, ensuring justice and equity in every deal. Thank you for joining us on this journey through property law essentials.